Hi everyone, I'm Andrew Lamb. I'm the chair of the Internet of Production Alliance, and I'm going to be presenting today a little bit about the Internet of Production as a consortium member of the MAKE project. I'm going to be talking a little bit about our inspiration, the problems, the opportunities, and the evidence of the Internet of Production and what we're trying to create with this new kind of digital infrastructure. The Internet of Production is inspired by the internet, and the internet is a network. It's a way of connecting machines together, and in this particular network, it's the machines are computers. But what's increasingly happening is that digital technologies are making their way into manufacturing and production, which is allowing, I mean, this has been happening for decades and actually predated the internet, but it means that we're able to connect machines together more and to share digital design files more. So let's not think about the technology side, let's think about the effects of the internet. You build the internet every time you connect a machine, a computer to it. You're building that internet. And that's because a lot of the machines that we have now, the computers that we have now, have standard protocols inside them. And because those protocols and those systems have been made open source, so anybody can adopt them. It's been called the greatest system that no one designed. And it's decentralized, it's very strong, very resilient, it's very hard to take down. But it really, it connects computers together and has created all sorts of impacts around the world, as I'm sure we're all aware. It's been called a democratizing force. You don't need any more to own knowledge. You don't need to pay to access knowledge, such as in the case of encyclopedias. You can now use Wikipedia, and in fact, in many countries, you can access Wikipedia free of charge because there are various mobile telephone companies that allow you to access that data. You can see the effects of the internet in computing. Computing has become incredibly cheap. There is such a huge incentive created by the internet in the world of computing that everyone seems to want to have one of these devices, and because of that, the cost of these devices has come down to the point where we can all carry around computers in our pockets, on our wrists, in all sorts of different devices and workplaces. It's also meant that we can reach markets. Now, the traditional market, where you turn up with physical goods, you can go to an online shop, and there's an example of one here. But of course, we all know there are so many different platforms that allow individuals, that allow companies to be able to get their products to markets. And increasingly, in fact, one of the side effects is that it's actually reducing the importance of real life markets. The problem is also what is inspiring the Internet of Production. The paradigm of production that we've had ever since the Industrial Revolution has been centralized. You make something in very large numbers, mass production, and then you ship it to wherever the markets are. And you can see that production is centralized in certain countries, in certain places around the world, and it's actually a huge geopolitical issue for us as production shifts. Originally with the Industrial Revolution in my country to, say, the foremost manufacturer in the world, in China, that has led to incredible changes in geopolitics. That centralized approach is changing. Rather than mass manufacturing, we're seeing decentralized manufacturing. We're seeing production by the masses. And rather than making one product over and over again, we can make any product with digital fabrication machines in low volumes locally. And all you have to ship is the design file. You have a flow of data rather than a flow of goods and materials. And then you can start making things locally and supporting the local economy. Now, the Rand Corporation put out this famous diagram decades ago about what decentralized and distributed networks mean. And I think with where production is concerned, we're moving along towards decentralized and distributed. Distributed systems are very much more robust and resilient. And I mean, just inspired by the internet, it's very hard to take down the internet, but it also means that in terms of production, there aren't breaks in supply chain, let's say, by global pandemics. You have infrastructures that are needed, and many of these are digital infrastructures. That's the focus of the Internet of Production, is creating digital infrastructures in the middle there. But we need localized sustainable production, say in the Make project through makerspaces. We need global knowledge. You know, we're doing some work on business models in the Make project, but we also need, and there have been other European Commission projects that have supported product designs and quality standards. But we have been concentrating on creating the open digital infrastructures that allow us to decentralize and distribute production. Now, one of the reasons, you know, why we're taking on this impossible challenge of reframing the paradigm of production, decentralizing and distributing the paradigm of production, is because of the opportunities that it brings, the effects that it can have. You can think about the, you know, when you think about human development, one of the most powerful things that drives human development is the empowerment of women. And it turns out that in most countries, most makers, most producers, even if they're not formally recognized as makers and producers, they may not have a job in a factory, for example, are women. And so you can, if you begin to sort of work with distributing and decentralizing production, you can empower more women, you can drive change, you can have the sustainable development goals, you can have better access to supplies around the world because they're locally made, and you can have more meaningful jobs, higher standards of living, more meaningful work. It helps us to achieve the SDGs. The benefits line up, and that every part of the SDGs will depend on some kind of distributed local production, I think. We have an alliance, just like with the internet. It's not made by any one organization. It's not a product of any one corporation or government. It's something that has to be built by everyone. So we have an alliance of people who are excited about this new paradigm of production and its applications. There's some great applications in assistive devices, in science, hardware, in disaster relief and international development. But you know, these are some of the people who've been pioneering this new paradigm of production, and there's some great applications of it. But the Alliance is increasingly engaging with manufacturers and manufacturing associations, and to try and engage with mainstream manufacturing. Now, it can really make a difference. And in many places, local production and network production, at least without the digital infrastructure, has been the way things are done. You can imagine in the food industry, you know, we all have the means of production in our own homes. And it's much, much cheaper to make your own food than perhaps to go to a restaurant to pay for someone else to do it. When it comes to manufactured goods, the answer is it really depends. The Internet of Production aims to complement mass production with networked local production, with production by the masses. But you can't just automatically think because it's made locally, it will be cheaper. You have to assess that. And most of the time, for most products, depending on the level of complexity, you can find that local production is cheaper. But there are some surprises, and you will need to take a judgment as to what is a cost-effective thing to be making locally. We're trying to help distribute production. We want people to feel the benefits of it rather than incur more costs. So you assess you design a product, you print it out in the case of a 3D printer, but then you share it. A lot of the costs of production is in the design step. But if you can do sharing through open hardware licenses, through digital platforms of these designs, and the designs are good quality enough, you can really make huge differences in the speed of production and the accessibility, just like, you know, access to knowledge through Wikipedia. Who does it help? Well, you know, a fetoscope for checking the position of a baby before they're born, you know, that's designed globally, made locally. It can help people in clinics all over the world. You can see makers that are trying to scale up their production, whether that's in Africa, in Europe, or from one continent to the other. Or you can see makers working with their local environment and local markets to connect makers to local markets, to basically find new ways of bringing back production to places, even like Manchester in the UK, with the home of the Industrial Revolution, where not a lot of manufacturing happens there anymore. So it helps in many different ways all over the world. At the Internet of Production, our roadmap is relatively simple. The execution is really complicated and complex, but this is about developing business models, about standards that underpin the Internet of Production, around recognizing skills, about knowing where machines are, knowing how to make things, the instructions for how you make manufactured products. And you also need to be able to engage in distributed contracting. So in the Make project, for the first time, we're able to trial the combination of all of these standards, working with makerspaces across Europe and Africa. It's a great opportunity to build and to implement and to test and to learn the Internet of Production. So thanks to Make for this opportunity, and thank you all for listening. That's a little bit about why we're doing the Internet of Production and some of the opportunities that it can bring. And if you have any questions, do get in touch with the Internet of Production through the Make project, and watch this space. We're going to have some exciting stories to tell. Thank you.